Welcome back to another episode of Credentialed. Great to be here with you, Justine Ward, alongside Jillian Mealy. And today we are talking all things social media. Now, Jillian and I had to work on social media given our careers in journalism. We're still very active on them now. And for most people, it is just that thing you do when you get a minute in your day. You take out the phone and you check Instagram or TikTok or Twitter. And so, Jillian, my first question here, thinking about us, our careers, what has your approach been to social media?
Oh, social media has changed over the years a lot, especially in our careers. My approach has always been to be as authentic as possible. And when I say that, I mean, you look at social media and especially a lot, and not all, but a lot of females on social media. You see a lot of bodies, I'll say, bikinis, sexy pictures, and things like that. I've always tried to be authentic to myself and not do those things because I look at it as what I'm putting out there is seen by all. And that's personally, professionally. And social media really has changed throughout our careers in the sense that at one point I felt like you weren't supposed to be on it at work. And then, especially in journalism, at another point, they're like, no, we want you on it. We need the followers. We need you to promote this. And it's just the
Mhm.
ebbs and flows of it have been really remarkable.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. And I think, as you said, it's hard not to get caught up in what everyone is doing. And you see a lot of people posting certain pictures, and you think, oh, I need to do that because on the surface level, they're getting the likes, they're getting the attention. Now, in our world, they might be getting the jobs because of their social media following. And I think for me, I've always tried not to fall for that. But at the same time, it's incredibly hard not to.
Yeah, it's been a little bit disappointing to see. I will say that because I look at it and the second you open Instagram, it's everybody looks like a model. Everybody's living their best life and what you see is the best of people's lives. So I try and put that in perspective that, and we're all guilty of that. I've posted things without my makeup on. I've posted about different points in my life and different struggles and phases that I've been in because I try to be real and I try to be authentic. But a lot of what you see is just the best of
Mm-hmm.
our lives, everybody's lives. And I think it's easy to get really down about that if you're having that moment where you're sitting on your couch alone and you're scrolling Instagram or scrolling some other form of social media and you're seeing everybody's best. It's easy to get down on yourself. And like you said, fall into that trap where you feel like you have to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's one of my biggest gripes with social media right now is that people feel that they have to be a certain way. And again, not everyone, but a lot of people feel like they have to fit into this mold or fit into this box just to fit in
Mm-hmm.
online.
Absolutely. It can be really hard to own your journey and your authenticity and what you want your identity to be on social media when you see those types of things being rewarded. I know my young 20s, it's a really hard time in your life where you're figuring out who you are. You're out of school for the first time that you can remember, right? You're in school from 5 to 22, and
Hmm.
all of a sudden you have to make a lane for yourself as to who you are, what you stand for, what your career is going to be. And those are some really, really, really tough years. And I think those are the times, at least in my life, because I didn't have social media as a teenager. So I can only imagine, right, what
Yeah.
teenagers today are going through. But I look back to the constant comparison, especially in journalism, of, oh, well, this person got this job and this person got that job, and they're posting this and they're posting that, and they have these many followers. Like, what am I doing? And that,
Hmm.
I think, can be really hard to get to the point where you own who you are and you start telling yourself, well, their life choices are not my life choices. And I still say that to myself sometimes because it is so easy with social media to compare yourself to others.
And I feel, and maybe I'm alone in this, you can tell me if you feel this way, but previously, and as you know, I never mention names, I never mention where or who or whatever, because both of us are not like that. But previously in jobs, I've been told, hey, can you take that down? Hey, can you not post that? And I'm like, wait, what? There's someone else who works here who's but they're doing this and I'm like
Mm-hmm.
fully
Mm-hmm.
clothed and I'm not allowed to do. I can't rationalize in my head how sometimes these decisions are made. It seems like different rules apply to different people in certain jobs or certain roles when it comes to social media. And that actually really ticks me off.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, and it's hard not to feel frustrated by that. And what I think gives me grace, gives me peace is there is a long run approach to all of this. I have all the times people tell me, "Why don't you go be an influencer? I know so and so who's an hair influencer making XYZ dollars." But there
Which you could be
is
a hair influencer.
oh, I don't know. I get a lot of help in that department. But there's a long run approach, right? This is, you have to think strategically on who you are, what do you want to build, and who's to say that that influencer isn't a quick flash in the pan. Like, there's something to be said for working hard and building a career and not getting caught up. This is no disrespect to influencers, who many of whom are lovely, many of whom have built a very respectable business. Like,
Hmm.
that's a kudos to them, but there's another way to do it. And that's just how I tend to want to approach things.
There's also the frustrating side where, as a female on social media, we get a lot of messages. I can speak for myself here, and I'm sure you get them too. Hey, where's the pictures of you in a bikini? Hey, why don't you show more skin? Hey, can't you send me a picture? I mean, I've had professional athletes send me DMs being like, hey, send me pictures. I'm like, no,
Send you
why would I
pictures
do
of
that?
what?
Yeah, why
Like,
would I do that?
turn on your television, bro. Sorry.
Turn on the TV, bro. It's true though. Like why I feel like the rules are different for men and women on social media because we get bombarded with those messages in our inbox all the
Mm-hmm.
time. You can scour social media all you want. You're not going to find a picture of me full on in just a bikini anywhere or anything that minimal for a reason because I'm not giving in to the
Mm-hmm.
people who are sending me these messages, quite honestly, being really creepy.
I know. Like, I have had to block people when I've been live on the air, sending me
Block
messages or
parties.
tweeting me really inappropriate things. And
Hmm.
I'm here doing a job. And same thing, Jillian. When I used to cover sports, there would be players in the game I was covering messaging me, DMing me because they saw me there. And again, I'm here to do a job. I'm not here to talk to you or DM you. It can be really, really frustrating.
Yes, it can. And you know what else is frustrating for me about it is and this is I think a longer conversation, but social media in general in the workplace outside of journalism. And when I say that, I mean I have strong feelings that social media has changed a lot since it came out over the years, as I referenced a few minutes ago. Years ago, even just a few short years ago, I felt like the narrative around social media, especially for hires, was we have to look at their social media and see if they're doing anything inappropriate, see what type of
Mm-hmm.
person they are, see what we can find. And I'm not saying this, please don't misinterpret what I'm saying, anyone listening. I'm not saying this is the case for all industries, but I see it in some industries right now where instead of it being like, hey, let's look at their profiles to see what type of person they are. Now it's like, let's look at their profiles to see what kind of following they have and what we can potentially gain from that outreach. It's
Mm-hmm.
changed. It's done a 180 in some circumstances.
Absolutely. And what would you say to working professionals, employers? I work with a lot of young women. I have some thoughts here, but what would you say the approach should be?
I just think anytime I'm asked this question, my response is always the same. It's that I really do put a lot of weight in being authentic as best I can online. You're not going to certainly see me posting videos where I'm in my most vulnerable moments when I'm crying and having a sad day or something like that, but I think some of that shouldn't always be public. So I try as best I can to really live by the authenticity rule online, and
Mm-hmm.
I really try and live by the rule that what I post, I expect to be seen by those closest to me personally and those who know me in a professional capacity. And when I have that in the back of my mind, I don't then even think about posting content that I think wouldn't fit both of those descriptions.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great lens. And I think your story, your page represent you and what's important to you. And perhaps now employers aren't checking it with as much scrutiny as they used to, but you better believe if you work with people who follow you, they are looking at that and they are forming perceptions about you and what's important to you based on what you put there. And similarly, if you're a single person who's trying to date and you are putting a bunch up there about, I don't know, for example, partying, traveling, etc., that person on the other end who's another single person looking to meet someone special who is long-term potential is also evaluating. So I think it's really important to keep in mind you are constantly being evaluated. Maybe your boss doesn't care, but that coworker, maybe that person you look up to who might follow you on social media, they're taking notice of it.
Absolutely. They're taking notice of it. Not only are they formulating opinions and judgments in some cases, certainly not everybody, but a lot of people, but also if they have an issue with it, they're going to the boss about it. I have never had a coworker go to the boss about me, but I've seen it firsthand happen
Mm-hmm.
where people are like, hey, this person is here and they're posting all these stories and all these pictures of them partying or whatever. Why can't I do the same? Like, and then the boss goes and has a conversation with, it's unnecessary drama in the workplace. And so if you have an account that's private, then I guess keep it as button up and private as you can be and not let anyone else on it. But if you have an account where other people are on it, you have to be mindful of this. And as you know, Justine, I mentor a number of young girls,
Mm-hmm.
college aged women. And they're concerned about this. They have told me that they feel like they have to be a certain way and they have to post certain things. And some of them have even said, I've just gotten off social media altogether because I'm not that and I can't live it. I don't know how to live in that world then.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's sad to me. And you said this earlier, how kids are now growing up with social media. I can't imagine growing up with social media, especially Instagram and TikTok, and feeling that pressure of having to be a certain way or look a certain way or act a certain way or have certain friends and have it be all out there in the public. I think that is so challenging and I don't know how
Mm-hmm.
kids navigate it and how adults, how parents help the kids navigate it because I think it's multiple
Right.
people navigating that right now.
Absolutely. And we're adults and we're still figuring out what is the right balance. How do I represent myself appropriately and authentically? Right. We're full human beings with a social life, with friends and family we care about, with jobs, etc. And it's hard enough as an adult to navigate that and not get pulled into kind of what social media does and what you should be. I shut my phone off at 8 o'clock. I try not to look at it after 8 o'clock just to give myself even the evening to
Wow.
reset.
Yeah, I'm not that good.
Well, I'm not that good most nights. I hit ignore on the do not disturb, but that's one thing I think I've tried to work in. And, there's another piece here too. And it's not just women, but I do think it's especially hard on women. And the beauty standards that have been set in the images we see, one, there are now entire Instagram pages that are AI. Those are not real people or real women. But to the
Yeah.
body standards that it's set based on all of these augmentations that people are now able to do. And you think about an adult woman able to process that, able to recognize that, a teenager looking at that and saying, why doesn't my body look like that?
Yeah, and also you mentioned the dating world. When you have so many model-esque types in your face all day long on social media, I think it creates a distorted image of the real woman, the
Mm-hmm.
real girl, what real life is. And I'm not saying that we've gone quite that far yet, but with AI and where things are going, it does scare me a little bit because we are all so uniquely beautiful. And I know that's cliche to say, but I feel like in some respects, social media and AI has taken that away from us, has taken away the personal, unique beauty and character that we all
Mm-hmm.
possess.
And the filters and everything else that people can do to their photos that, again, you don't even really see the real person anymore.
Not gonna lie, I'm guilty of just touching up the face a little bit,
Yeah, I mean,
taking away the shine. Take away the shine.
we all do it. The Paris filter on the stories. I just
Yeah.
posted one with that. But that's the world we live in, right? That's a playing field.
I know. I know it is scary. I think though, like at the end of the day, my bigger picture is recognizing your personal overall brand, who you want to be. My grandmother, when up until her dying day, she would do her hair, she would do her makeup every day, she would get dressed, and I would say, "Mom, like what? who are you getting all decked out for? And she'd say, this is the face I want to put out to the world. This is my choice to put myself out there like this. And that resonated with me. And it's been a very long time that we had that conversation. But that resonated with me so much so in my personal life and also in my online life, because I look at that as my bigger brand of who I want to put out there. And
Hmm.
when you look at that and when you can put thought into who you want to put out into the world, I think it makes navigating social media a little bit easier.
Yeah, I love that thoughtful approach and thinking about what you post, what you want to put out to the world. The story of your grandma is beautiful too. Wow, what a great analogy. And the other thing, Jillian, did you ever get nervous because when you were working in media full time? Because I know when I would have posts ready to go that I would be so nervous because I really cared about my credibility, my respect, but I'm a human being that would dress up for work and like to show and what I was doing. I would have friends review them and be like, could this be mistaken? Could this be misconstrued before I
Really?
would post them? Yes, because I'd be so nervous.
Oh, that makes me sad. No, you know what? I understand the sentiment. I do. I was never nervous because I think I've played it very safe with what I've posted because like I said, I never post things that are too revealing. And quite honestly, I don't always post things that are too personal. I do like to let people into my personal life. That's why you see a lot of my dog. That's why you see a lot
Hmm.
of golf. I used to post a lot more with close friends and family. I've stopped that because, and you know this, Justine, but the world doesn't know this, but I've had a number of stalkers.
Oh,
I've
it's so
had
scary.
some who have been very serious, who've shown up to my house and which by the way is not cool at all. But so I'm very aware of what I post online, of not posting things when I'm at a certain location, of not even posting my location, of looking in the background of my images to see, is there anything that could
Hmm.
be an indicator here as to my location. I've had to take it to the extreme because of certain situations that have happened to me over the life of my career. And so I think because of that, and some of these instances happened before social media really became a huge presence like it is now. So I think because of the personal experience having dealt with all of that, anything I posted was just pretty much like, no, I'm good
Hmm.
with this.
Yeah, that's like a different level of fear too, like to be worried about your safety. That's
Hmm.
scary as well.
Yeah.
We talked about the approach for somebody with a social media. What do you think the approach now should be for employers? Because as you talked about, there was a time not too long ago when employers would take a deep dive into social media, how they were represented, and in some fields, more important than others, how you show up. What do you think the approach should be for employers?
That's a great question. And it's a question that I think is still evolving, the answer anyway, because nowadays you can't ignore it. It's not something that you can say, oh, well, this person has a social media presence. Well, they're out as a candidate for this job. You can't ignore it anymore because most people have it. And
Hmm.
so I think now we've reached this point in the business world and the professional setting where we're at acceptance of social media. And I think it's fair to, I still think it's fair to look at character and see what type of content people are posting. But I think it's unfair nowadays to look and say, well, yeah, they posted a picture of themselves in Miami, or they posted a picture just, watching a football game at a tailgate. So can't really do that because there's beer around, or I'm just making up a situation,
Sure.
but it's everywhere. You can't escape it now. So
Hmm.
I don't know the answer to that, but I think the narrative around it has shifted, and I think it's going to continue to shift.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember a time ago when I was not being hired for a job, but I was talking to a potential employer and they didn't hire someone at that time because they had too many pictures of them drinking on social
Hmm.
media with champagne, etc. Now it's everywhere where you're seeing people are seen having a nice cocktail. It's just a part of life. Where I do think there might be an area is if it becomes a disruption and a distraction at the workplace, that is where I think employers may have to take a more critical look at it.
Or if it's just excessive. If like you go to someone's page and they're constantly, with shots and like doing keg stands, okay, maybe we got a problem here that
Right.
we should reconsider posting this much of this content and keep some of that personal life a little private.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Or it's are you working or are you on social media? Because
Right.
gotta do your job.
But here's a question. What
Hmm.
do we consider social media? Like, do you consider LinkedIn social media? Because I will say, especially in the field of journalism, oftentimes you are reaching out to possible sources or possible
Hmm.
connections or people you want to interview via sites like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
See, that's using it for work.
True.
So it is technically social media, but you're using it to get work done, which is one of the many benefits to social media, and that it's keeping people connected and accessibility, etc.
Hmm.
And I know in my work, it's great. You want to network, you want to stay connected on LinkedIn and update people what you're working on, etc. So I would say that is where I would see LinkedIn. If you're working on it for work, that's different.
I'd love for folks in the professional world to chime in on this as well, to like send us their feedback about
Hmm.
this conversation, because I'm curious, because neither of us are in the position where we're making those decisions to hire, where we're looking
Hmm.
at candidates for their background and for their character. And I'd be curious to hear from people in that world of what they're actually thinking of that right now,
Hmm.
because it is constantly evolving.
Yeah, it's new every day, something new every day, in new the threads that came out on Twitter and TikTok,
Oh
which we
yeah.
have not crossed that bridge yet, either of us. I know we have kind of mixed feelings on that one.
But we're probably going to have to. The other thing I do want to bring up, though, and I think that this is important to talk about, is where I get concerned with social media is how it's made the immediacy of information available to us, which on one hand can be good, on the other hand, to me, can be scary. Because when you look at journalism, and we constantly go back to journalism because that's been our field for so long, when you look at journalism, and you look at if there's breaking news and if it's serious news and it needs confirmation, you need sources to verify what's going on.
Hmm.
Nowadays, everyone feels that pressure to be the first to get that information, get it confirmed, get it on air, get it online. And we've seen many examples hitting national news where things have had to be backtracked because it's just the information is out there too quickly. We
Hmm.
have to let some things settle. We have to let some things develop. Some things need time. And it is much more journalistic to give things time to unfold and give yourself time to get things confirmed and hear from your sources before you're getting information out there to this world that's just demanding it be
Hmm.
instant. And to me, that's one of the danger zones of where we are with information online.
And that is where the information spreads really fast and it's inaccurate, and that's what's can be really scary. And I think, you're typing on a keyboard or on a phone, and sometimes it's so easy to forget that there are serious consequences to some of these things. Like, this affects people with big
Absolutely.
impacts.
Absolutely. And so, with the involvement now of AI in that world, we have bigger conversations surrounding that. It scares me even more about AI being in the world where this information that is so critical and that is so important and has to be factual, now AI is involved in this immediate
Hmm.
information world. And that in itself is just like gives me a headache a little bit, to be honest
I
with you.
know. Well, make sure you check out our episode that we did on AI. And the other thing too, Jillian, I think that comes with it, a lot of positive, a lot of good. But in our fields, it's a lot of criticism, especially on some platforms more than others. People
Hmm.
live to correct you
Hmm.
and look for you to be wrong, which is right. We just
Yes.
talked about the importance of accurate information. That is still important.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with the criticism?
They look to correct you. They look for you to be wrong. They look to basically just insult. A lot of people do. I mean, I've spent years getting criticism online from people who I've never met and will never meet. And people who just want to hate on someone, people who
Mhm.
just now look, if I said something wrong or I did something wrong and I am worthy of that criticism, absolutely. But when you're signing on with no picture on your profile, just to send me a tweet or send me a DM saying how much you hate me and how terrible I am and how ugly I am and how bad I am at my job, or I mean, the list goes on, the things I've heard over my
Yeah.
career, that's unfortunate. There was a point in my life where that stuff bothered me. And then there was a point in my life where that stuff just didn't bother
Mhm.
me. And I almost found it amusing because once you see how much of it there is and how, I don't know, I almost started to feel bad for those people sending those messages.
Mhm.
And now I just let them roll off my back. I don't really care about that. But it did take me a bit to get there. And I don't think that there was like a formula for how I suddenly became okay with it one day. I think
Mhm.
it was just really time and um, it happening a lot. What about you?
Yeah, I would say earlier in my career, it really bothered me. It would really get under my skin. And I think as a woman in sports, you do have to prove yourself a bit more.
Hmm.
I think it comes with the territory. And I think that's where a lot of the hate came from. But I do think, again, it was a thing that it wasn't overnight. I also got a ton of support at work. I've had wonderful people that I've worked with that have been instances where I was upset about a certain tweet, and a former producer of mine like was just really talked to me and was like, "Don't worry about it. Like it's
Mm.
meaningless." And again, I think over time, I guess exposure to it, you just kind of begin to tune it out. And a lot of times the comments are the same things. So you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I've
Yeah.
heard that one before. Yeah.
Real creative.
Ah.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And I will say too, I think it comes with confidence. I think the more that you have the confidence in yourself, when you're young in your career, you're starting out, hearing things that are negative about you are hurtful, especially
Mhm.
from people who you deem as viewers, and you're like, well, I don't want to be bad at my job. I don't want them to think I'm terrible. I don't want them to not want to watch or not want to listen. I want to be the best I can for them. But the more you go on in your career, and even just develop that self confidence in your personal life, I think that's when you're like, you know what? I'm okay. Like, not everyone is going to like me. Not everyone is going to like what I have to say. Not everyone is going to like how I dress. Not everyone is going to like my voice. Not everyone is going to like my hair, how I deliver the news, you name it. But that's okay because honestly, I don't like how everyone does those things either. I'm not tweeting them about them. I'm not sending them messages about it, but it's okay for people to have opinions. And it's like that quote goes, I'm going to butcher a little bit, but other people's opinions of me are none of my business.
Yeah.
You know that quote?
Mhm.
Like, I don't need to know. You feel the need to tell me. That's great. I'm glad that you feel better by doing that, but I don't need to know. And I'm not going to really let it ruin my day.
Yes, and I think with time in your career, time to get to know who you are, what you stand for, which goes into how you represent yourself on social media too, you become confident in that. And I also think, Jillian, having that support, like having a team of supporters in your corner, when there is one that maybe gets under your skin a little bit, is so crucial. And identifying those
Mhm.
people and having that support system.
And also, I was sort of prepared to deal with this online critical world because I've had a number of really awful criticisms to my face from people who I've worked with, who I've
Mm.
had to spend hours, and I mean like 8 hours with in a live truck for a day, just the two of us. I've had, again, always to be unnamed, I've had one person look at me in the eyes and say, "Who did you sleep with to get this job?" I've had one
It's just
person look me
wrong.
in the eyes and say, "Who does your daddy know?" I've had another person look me in the eyes and say, "Wow, I thought you were just some dumb blonde who didn't know her behind from her face, but you actually know what you're doing. Thank you." Is that supposed to make me feel good? I mean, I've had a
I mean,
lot of
that's animosity.
criticisms.
There's just like no place for that at all.
Mhm. Yeah, but
Like,
I have had that happen very early in my career to my face. And so experiencing that and having to learn how to stay composed and not let them see how
mhm.
you're feeling on the inside
Right.
and respond to it in an appropriate manner, like getting that composure at such a young age really taught me a lot
Mhm.
for how to deal with the online world, which honestly is kind of easier than that.
Yeah, I'd like to say some of those things haven't happened to me, but unfortunately they have. And so when you see headlines, etc., about women in the workplace, these things do happen. I think it's gotten better. I think it's gotten vastly better. But Jillian, I've had similar experiences and similar stories of just kind of that's really not right at all. Um, and it's hard, but unfortunately, the good part is you do learn to take and handle some of those things. The unfortunate side too, as well.
I will say too, and yes, you're correct. The good side for me, the upside of social media, not to completely like bash social media, is it gives a lot of people an opportunity to build their brand and to get their platform out there or use their platform to get
Mm-hmm.
their brand out there to help businesses. How many times do you see businesses creating videos and all of a sudden you see online like, hey, our business got traction because it reached a lot of people online, and there are a lot of good opportunities
Mm-hmm.
that come from social media. I just think navigating it personally is very challenging right now. So with the good comes the bad.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm okay with that for now.
And that's the whole point of this conversation is about how do we navigate it. I mean, I don't know if I'd be marrying my husband if it weren't for social media because
Really?
us restarting our conversation happened on Instagram. Now, I've known
Oh,
him for years because we grew up together, but that's one of the benefits of social media is you get to be connected to these people that you otherwise wouldn't maybe be in touch with. So, a lot of good, some
I
bad.
like that. I didn't know that.
It's very true.
Wait,
Yeah.
who initiated the conversation?
So he was in Chicago around the holidays, and I was out celebrating a friend's birthday, and we were in the same area, and he saw it on my stories. And so he messaged me and was like, "Hey, are you in Chicago? I'm in town."
That
And
a
so that
boy.
that started yeah, that started the conversation, but we had been friends on Instagram. I mean, we went to middle school and high school together, so we've always been friends on Instagram, but that kind of restarted the conversation. Um and so
I love that.
here we
Instagram's
are.
like the new dating app, which
It
is
is.
annoying.
It's again, like we talked about, good and bad to both. So,
Exactly.
well, we appreciate everybody listening. Wanted to share our thoughts on where we think social media is, where it's potentially headed, and how do we navigate this crazy thing. So, another credentialed episode in the books for Jillian Mealy. I'm Justine Ward. We'll see you next time.